just a bit outside.
That ball's in the air to right. It's a long...
Welcome on in to Nate Hit the Foul Pole. I'm here with my co-host Matthew Pine and our special guest today, Adam Pohl. He's the broadcaster for the Bowie Baysox. And Adam, how's it going today?
Hey, good. I got to start you guys out with a quick story about the foul pole.
Okay, let's do it.
So the craziest game I ever went to, Oriole game I ever went to, was actually at Memorial Stadium. I was 10 years old, and it was a game where Mike Devereaux hit the foul pole to walk it off. It was like in July, and I got so excited when it was a Masson Classic or whatever back in the day, like a few years ago. I was like, oh my God, I was at this game when I was a kid. I mean, I couldn't believe it. Like the Orioles were losing 7-3 in the seventh. They came back and they won it. And the great thing about that game was that he actually didn't hit the foul pole. The ball went foul. So it was the opposite of McLeod, and it was ruled a home run, and we won.
Wow.
And the next day, and I've seen this once in the minors, but the next day at the lineup card exchange, and I'm dating myself here, California Angels manager, whoever it was, he got thrown out of the game the next day's game at the lineup card exchange.
So that's our first question for you. I think on the foul pole topic, I think we have to say, did Nate hit the foul pole? Officially from Adam Pohl, did Nate hit the foul pole?
He did, but I was listening to it on the radio when it happened. I can't remember why. I think I had another broadcast or something. I'm trying to think of why I wasn't watching that game on TV. Why I was listening to the Joe Angel, such an incredibly important Oriole game. Oh, my God.
Yeah, for sure.
But, yes, he hit the foul pole because Joe Angel told me so.
There we go.
And I trust Joe.
That man speaks no lies.
So, Adam, tell everyone a little bit about yourself, how you got into the role of being the Baysox broadcaster, and how long you've been doing this now.
Yeah, man. As you can tell, I mean, I got a lot of rings on the old tree, but I'm somebody who was born in DC, and I'm of the age of Oriole fans that obviously probably would have been national fans if there was or Senators fans, right? Mm-hmm. I'm from Arlington, Virginia. So I grew up in the era of no Ravens and no Nationals. So, I grew up a huge fan in this area. I went down and went to school in North Carolina and decided to try to do this and started. I was able to work in a college summer league 20 years ago in Asheboro, North Carolina. Trust me, it exists. It's a town of about 20,000 people. And then after 2 years, I started working in I got a job in minor league baseball. So I was 2 years in Burlington, North Carolina, and then I was 2 years in Salem, Virginia. That was an Astros affiliate at the time. They're now the Salem Red Sox. I had Hunter Pence and Ben Zobrist my first year as a single A broadcaster. So that was pretty cool. They weren't even like the top prospects of the Astros at that time. So it was pretty wild. And then and then I went to Frederick, and that was a huge jump in my career, kind of a dream come true type deal, to get a job in the Orioles organization. But that was 15 years ago. I mean, it was December of 2006 that I got the job in Frederick. The 2007 season was my first in the Orioles organization. And, the crazy thing about that is even looking back at the guys that were on my first Orioles minor league baseball team, we were a team that won the championship, the Carolina League, the Frederick Keys. And that team had, it was quite a crew, but that team had guys like Brad Bergeson and Jason Birkin and David Hernandez. Brandon Irby, Corey Spoon. It was really the pitchers that dominated that team. So it was really quite a team. And then the next year, 2008, we had Matt Wieters and Jake Arrieta. So that was a more memorable team as far as the names, per se, the big league talent on it. But anyways, yeah, that's a little look. So So missing last year, this is going to be my 14th year as an Orioles minor league broadcaster. So 7 in Frederick, and it'll be my 8th year involved with Bowie, but my 7th season. So.
And to piggyback off that, Adam, how good does it feel to have minor league baseball back, and just talk about the impact on some of these towns that have been missing it, for the last year or two?
Yeah, Matt. I mean, big. It's great because it shows that we're turning a corner as an industry. I worked in minor league baseball full time from, like I said, 2005 to what was 2020. So it was hard. I mean, I'm one that actually left as far as minor league baseball being my full time job, but going beyond that, I mean, it was probably 75% of people that had full-time jobs in minor league baseball that lost it. I mean, it might even be higher than that. And most teams, because of the struggles financially, are having a tough time getting back to the levels of full employment like they were before. And then, of course, at the same time, you had minor league baseball kind of almost being taken over by Major League Baseball, and 162 teams going to 120. So the 4 teams I work for that I just talked about, Burlington, North Carolina, and Frederick, Maryland, 2 of the 4 teams I've ever called in minor league baseball are not in minor league baseball anymore. So I don't know. It's been crazy, but now it seems like, we're past it. We're moving on, and hopefully you get through this season, things can get back to normal in 22, and these teams can start growing again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And you mentioned before that you saw some guys like Jake Arrieta, like Matt Wieters, but you've obviously seen others like Trey Mancini, lots of Orioles that have had, considerable Major League Baseball success. So who are some of those guys you've seen, and did you kind of know when they were with the Baysox that they were going to have the careers they ended up having?
Yeah, Zach, it's interesting. I think it's more interesting with the guys that weren't the big prospects. I mean, obviously. The big prospects in the system since I've been in it, were Matt Wieters and Manny Machado and Kevin Gausman and Dylan Bundy. Those were all top 5 picks in the draft. And of course, we'll have another one in Bowie here in the number 1 overall pick in Adley Rutschman this year. But all in all, some of those guys that were a little bit beneath the radar, and Mancini would stand out most of all. When Trey Mancini was in Bowie, Chris Davis hadn't really fallen off yet, and Christian Walker was the first baseman in AAA, and he was a much more renowned minor league ball player. So I went on 105.7 and told people that Trey Mancini I thought was going to be the future first baseman of the Orioles, and people thought I was crazy, but that's how good he was. I mean, in 2014, the best player in the Eastern League. Maybe I'm getting cocky, but when you watch Double-A baseball, like in Single-A baseball, the biggest jump in the minor leagues is from Single-A to Double-A. And of course, the biggest jump overall is to the big leagues, right? But it's huge when guys perform at the Double-A level. It's usually a major sign, if they're the right age, that they're going to be big league ball players. And, in 2014, it was a 4th round draft choice of the Red Sox that was the best player in the Eastern League, named Mookie Betts. And not many people knew much about Mookie because, of course, once again, he was like a 4th round pick. And it's like, wow, this guy's a dominant ball player. And the guy that was the dominant ball player in the Eastern League in 2015 was Trey Mancini. And he was an 8th round draft choice. And I just didn't understand why, here was Mookie Betts in 2015 having this incredible, rookie season, why Trey Mancini couldn't be an impact big league player. And so that it's been really, really great following his career, and he obviously is the right kind of guy as well. I mean, there's a reason why he's so beloved.
And talk about you just mentioned Adley Rutschman being this year, kind of the big hype surrounding him. Zach and I were just talking pre-show about the mania that kind of followed him, in Salisbury and then again in Aberdeen. Just talk about how excited you are to have him in Bowie this year.
Yeah, it's going to be weird not to, get to meet him personally. I mean, like we're not, but this is all the logistics behind the scenes. It doesn't matter to fans that we're not even able to, speak face to face with anybody on the team. It's going to be kind of crazy, but it's really exciting. I think that when you're looking at this rebuild, more of a forest from the trees perspective, you realize that it really kicked off with that Machado trade, and a lot of those players and the players that were traded for beyond that are already through Bowie, right? I mean, Dean Kramer, Bruce Zimmerman, even a lot of the guys drafted at that time, guys like Keegan Aiken and such, that have been to the big leagues. And of course, you got guys like Yusniel Diaz and Rylan Bannon, and I think Zach Pop's pitching for the Marlins today against the Nats here down the road. So a lot of these guys that were in that trade that were kind of like the leadoff hitters of the rebuild are through the AA level. But, just because of the fact that the top prospects that were the last guys drafted by the past regime, the Duquette regime, they did a great job of drafting at the end of the regime. You're looking at DL Hall and Grayson Rodriguez. Those were the last 2 first-round picks, but they were high school guys. So they're still entrenched, in high A, AA in the minors. And Adley is the beginning of the next phase after that, which is Elias's own players, the own guys that he has picked with his regime. When he was brought to Baltimore, he was brought really to obviously make the Orioles a dominant pipeline to the major leagues. And Rutschman is the key piece of that. So I kind of feel like, when you look at it holistically, it's exciting because we're going to have both DL Hall and Rutschman and Bowie to start the year. It would be a major surprise if we don't have Grayson Rodriguez even early in the season. We also have a first-round pick, Cody Sedlak, on the roster. And who knows with Kerstaff what's going to happen. But if he gets healthy, gets onto a roster and dominates, it wouldn't be a shock if he's in Bowie by the end of the year. So, I mean, we're going to have 4 or 5 number 1 picks on this Baysox team this season, and it's going to be really exciting.
Yeah, you just mentioned DL Hall. Obviously, he's kind of the ace of that staff. There's some other guys that are good, really solid prospects, good pitchers down there as well. But is he kind of the assumed opening day starter? I know Steve Molesky from Madison Sports tweeted yesterday it looked like he would be, but is that kind of how the Baysox will go?
I would assume so, yeah. But really, when you look at the Baysox team this year, obviously Rutschman being the number 2 prospect in baseball is the highlight. But if you're looking at it as far as the different pieces of the team, I would really look at the starting pitching as the deepest part of the team, which is exciting because that was the best part of the 2019 team that went to the Eastern League's championship series. And that not one of the 2019 starters is going to be back with Bowie this year. Wow. So you're looking at the guys that started there, and those guys are all going to be getting their feet wet with the Orioles this year, I think. And now you've got this next group that's going to be in Bowie, along with Rutschman, that are pushing up together. And when you look at the solidification of the Orioles as a winning ball club in the big leagues, I think that's what you're seeing, right? I mean, you're going to see Kramer, Zimmerman, Lowther, Alex Wells, Mike Bauman. These were the guys, Hunter Harvey, Dylan Tate. These were the guys that were the heart of the pitching of the Baysox in 19. And now here we are in 21, and you're going to see DL Hall, Grayson Rodriguez. And now Rodriguez is not with the team to start the year. He's in Advanced A Aberdeen. But you're going to Kyle Bradish, guys like that. He's the big name in the Bundy trade. And Brennan Hannafy. These are the kinds of guys that are going to be the big pieces for Baltimore. And of all of those names, you're going to have a pretty deep rotation. And then, of course, you add kind of a guy like Rutschman in with the Austin Hayeses and Cedric Mullins of the world, Ryan Mountcastle. You're hoping to have a homegrown lineup as well. That is a good, solid lineup.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, some of the recent Elias acquisitions, like Kevin Smith, Karen Baber are also there. So definitely trickling in at this point. What about a guy like J.C. Escara, Adam? I know you get to watch him a little bit in Frederick. Obviously, we know he broke the batting record of Trey Mancini's down in Aberdeen.
Monster hitter.
Yeah. What are you looking for out of him this year?
I think that he's a guy that I'm trying to think of exactly his age. I think he's one of these guys that I feel for that. I feel that he was really hurt by losing 2020, right? Yeah. I mean, the guys that aren't the top prospects that need to kind of prove it at every level.
He's 26.
Exactly. So the average AA ball player is 24. I wouldn't be surprised if it's a little bit on the older side this year due to the fact, I mean, Escara would have undoubtedly been a big part of the 2020 Bowie Baysox,
Right.
which means that, he's going to have to shine immediately, but there's no reason why he can't, right? He has had good numbers at the lower levels. He didn't have a dominant season in 19 in Frederick, but it's going to be really important, and I'm talking a little bit more generally here, but for guys like Escara and Newstrom, the outfielder, who's been really good in the low levels of the minor leagues, Robert Newstrom. You also have a guy like Zach Jarrett that has put up big numbers in the low levels of the minors, but struggled a little bit in Bowie in 2019. Steve Klimek, who was outstanding as a reliever with the Baysox, but is older, in 19. These are the guys, Tyler Irwin, that are going to have to come in and really dominate. But if they hit the ground running, there's opportunity at the big league level. I mean, there really is. We've seen it a little bit more in Bowie with relief pitchers than anyone else, but yeah, I mean, the opportunity is still there. It's going to be very interesting to see these guys that didn't play and weren't in the alternate camp last year to see, if they're able to hit the ground running this season. It's going to be a really unique year.
Yeah, for sure. I know that Brian Shawcross, the GM of the Blue Bay Sox, he's been tweeting a lot about the ballpark improvements they've made.
Yes,
it seems like they've changed a lot. So what kind of things have they changed, and how is the stadium different than it was in 2019?
A good question, Zach. Now, for the players, the main thing is the outfield wall. If you guys have been to Bowie, the outfield wall has always just kind of been a fence, with signage over it. And then there's a home run wall behind it with outfield signs. That'll say the same. But the actual outfield wall will be a padded wall, much like in every big league ballpark. That is a big, big difference. The actual playing surface has always been the best in the Orioles organization and maybe one of the best in minor league baseball. So it's really a great facility for the players. And then a lot of the other things are changes that fans will see, right? So, all the ballpark's infrastructure was starting to crack. So that was completely taken care of, completely brand new parking lot. The suite level is shaded in, so it's not on the outside anymore. There's a lot, in that regard that's really going to be exciting. So a lot of the things, the majority of the things in the ballpark are actually for the fans, not the players. But that wall is going to stand out right away.
And it looks as though we do have a question from a listener here.
I like it. Let's go, Justin.
Good friend Justin here. He says, how do you see the infield playing this year? Is this a make or break year for Caden Grenier?
Grenier's a very good infielder. I think when you look at the makeup of this infield, I think there's a good chance that he'll play a lot of shortstop. And it's interesting that he gets to play with his collegiate teammate in Richmond, right? I mean, of course, he was a star on the Oregon State team. He was a first-round supplemental pick. So the question is, will his bat hold up? Now, Grenier, unlike a guy like Escara that's 26, Grenier's a little bit younger. And obviously he's also somebody that got a lot more money, which does matter in the organization. They're going to let those guys go for a while. So, and give them every opportunity to succeed. So, I do feel for Grenier in that same way that last year was going to be a big, big year for him. So there's a little bit more of a pressing need for him to show that he can handle it, offensively. But if you look at the Orioles as a big league ball club, middle infield is a real opportunity, right? I mean, It seems like that is you've got an outstanding deep outfield. Kind of where the catching position is going, right? You've got all these starting pitching prospects, and some will end up being pieces of the bullpen. But boy, the Orioles do have a need for somebody in the system to step up and say, I'm going to be a middle infielder for the future here with the Orioles. So Grenier has an enormous opportunity here starting in Bowie this season because he's going to get time to play. And if he plays extremely well, all of a sudden it wouldn't, he's going to be a guy that's on the radar to be in Baltimore very soon.
Yeah, it seems like there are a lot of guys in this roster that will move quickly. Especially you look at a guy like Kevin Smith. I thought he would probably start out in AAA. You look at Adley Rutschman, of course, he could probably move up to AAA at any time. But who are some guys that you could think that would be quick movers and probably are in AAA before you know it? You know, the guys that maybe stick around for only the month of May.
Ooh, that's a good question. I think that, it's not going to be the guys you think, actually. So AA is such an important level. AAA has a lot of veterans that kind of have big league time that have gone down. When you look, and obviously the Elias regime is not going to run things exactly like what happened previously in the Orioles organization. But if you look at guys like Matt Wieters, like Manny Machado, like Jonathan Scope, like even Dylan Bundy, what you're going to see is that they spent more time at AA than any other level of the minors. So it would be a little bit of a surprise to me if a guy like Rutschman was only in AA for a month.
Right, for sure.
If he dominates, I get it, but he's basically barely played at all in minor league baseball. So I would look actually more to guys that got a taste of Bowie in 2019. I know these are not the names you're expecting, but Tyler Irwin was an outstanding reliever all year for the Baysox in 2019. He undoubtedly would have been with the Baysox in 20, but if he would have pitched well early in 2020, he probably would have been in AAA in the bullpen. So he was right alongside guys like Jay Flaw, who just went up to the big leagues briefly, and Zach Muckenhern and the like. So he would be a guy that could go up right away. And Klimek is another one because Klimek's got stuff. And Steve Klimek, a mid-90s fastball, big curveball, and it just had an outstanding 2019 season between Frederick and Bowie. He's a real under-the-radar guy. Yeah. Probably had the best pandemic job. He was a nanny during the pandemic. He called himself Manny. He said, "Call me a Manny." So we lost Manny Machado, but we got Steve Manny Klimek, and but he's one as well. When you look at a lot of the starting pitchers, though, they are guys that are going to really get their first crack at AA. And what I noticed with Kramer, with Zimmerman, with Lowther and the likes, this regime really likes them to have about a year in AA. I don't know if it's going to be that way because everybody lost 2020, but for guys like that, like Bradish and Smith and the like, it'd be a surprise if they're not at the AA level for at least half of this season, especially too with a logjam of pitching prospects. All those guys I just talked about, Bauman, Lowther, Alex Wells, go down the line that are going to be Keegan Aiken to start AAA. I mean, there's four guys right there. There's your AAA rotation.
Yeah, and to wrap it up, I'm going to kind of combine two questions here. Firstly, who's the breakout player for the Baysox this year? Who's the guy that nobody really has on their radar that, really lights the world on fire? And then number two, what can fans really expect to see from the Baysox this year?
Oh, man, that's a good question. I feel so rusty, Zach, because I feel like I'm usually like more in tune with the Orioles system, but a year off is pretty crazy. But a few names to look out for. This guy, Taran Vavra, is really exciting.
For sure.
He was the big piece in the Michael Givens trade. He's the guy that can hit for average and is a top 15 prospect in the Orioles system. And obviously, I think there's a lot of Oriole fans that don't know who he is. He's going to get a big chance to play every day in the Baysox lineup. So I would really look out for him. He also fits the mold of a Elias prospect per se, because he's a high on base percentage guy. I would also, though, look towards some of these relievers to have a big chance to move up and even pitch in the big leagues quickly. The Baysox, though, when you look at this season, they're not full of guys that are on the 40-man roster right now. Usually there's more guys on the 40-man. I think the Orioles have more prospects in AAA this year than I can ever remember before. So I'd almost be surprised if the Baysox have that many guys that actually play in the big leagues. I think Adley Rutschman has a real chance this year. But I would kind of go the other way, Zach, for a moment, meaning a lot of times AA is full of college draft choices from 2 years ago. And 2 years ago was the Elias's first draft, right? So a lot of those guys from that 2019 draft that are going to start in Aberdeen, I think if there are older players in Bowie that struggle or injuries or movement in the Orioles system, that where guys in Bowie go up to AAA, it's going to open up a lot of opportunities for players in that 2019 draft, like a Johnny Reiser or, Kyle Stowers, guys like that in that realm. The center fielder from LSU, Watson, I think is his name.
Yeah, Zach Watson.
Zach Watson. I wouldn't be surprised if when you're looking at the Baysox at the end of this season, you're looking at a team that has like most, if not all of those guys as a part of it. Because they had a lot of success in Aberdeen and then touching Delmarva in 2019. So that's going to be really interesting to watch, is the development of the Elias 2019 and Sigma Idol draft in 2019. And if those guys get and make an impact in Bowie in 2021.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, before we let you go, Adam, I did want to give you a chance to get a plug. I saw that the Baysox recently launched a new podcast. So if you want to talk a little about that.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that. Yeah, so it's on all the different platforms, and we tried to make it easy. So it's called Bowie Baysox. Now, it's not just a podcast. We're treating it like it's a podcast channel, if that makes sense. So we're going to have many different things that go up on it. So like media. So when we do these Zoom press conferences, like tomorrow, we're going to have a Zoom press conference with Buck Britton, Adley Rutschman, DL Hall. So when those press conferences happen, we'll tape it. It'll go up on our channel. We're going to do a daily show about the Baysox that'll pop up every morning. So after every game, little update of the game. We're going to be interviewing players for our broadcast, nightly just about. So that will be a part going up as well. So you'll get to meet the players a little bit more so behind the scenes and in our 5 to 7 minute interviews with the guys. So I think for Oriole fans, if you're really into it, like this is a great way to learn the next, phase of Orioles baseball. I mean, if you look in 2019, right, the Baysox had Cedric Mullins, they had Austin Hayes, they had Dean Kramer, they had Zimmerman. I mean, all of these guys on the Orioles now came through Bowie, right? So, and there's no doubt that the Orioles are going to be an organization that builds from within, and they're even going to do more of that when they're able to start getting more Latin prospects in the system. So it's going to be exciting. Follow the Baysox now, and you'll get to know about these guys before they're at Camden Yards. And it doesn't take long from Bowie.
Yep.
No, definitely not.
Well, Adam, we certainly appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yes, thanks, Matt.
Thank you,
Zach. Really appreciate it, and can't wait to watch more of your guys' episodes.
Appreciate it.
We can't wait to have the Baysox season get underway. So thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Most definitely. Thank you, guys.
Alrighty, so that was Adam Pohl, who graciously agreed to join us for our show. And I know you're going to the game, or you're going to the Ironbirds game on Tuesday, right, Zach?
Yeah, in Wilmington. And for the Blue Rocks, they're going to be just playing the Ironbirds. I think Grayson Rodriguez is going to be starting that game, so pretty interesting to see him get a look at a guy I've never seen before. So definitely looking forward to that.
Cool. Should be, I missed minor league baseball for sure, not having it last year.
Yeah.
Adam touched on it a little bit, not really getting to see some of these guys that we're anticipating last year. But it's good to see, guys like friend of the show, Willie Yawn, get his shot this year. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of guys from that, 2019 Aberdeen team. Adam just mentioned that are now with the Baysox and some pretty solid players, really. Like you mentioned, Willie Yawn, he kind of tore it up. This is a guy that, again, is not really on many people's radars, but I think will be at the end of this year, especially if he hits, somewhere like 280, 290 with the Baysox. That's really going to, probably put him on some people's radars. So I think there's a lot of guys that will, this is going to be an exciting team, is the best way to put it. This is going to be a team people are going to want to watch, especially for guys like DL Hall, Adley Rutschman, but even a guy like Kyle Bradish. I mean, there's just a lot of talent on this roster. So, I mean, the Orioles minor leagues, it's almost as good of a product to watch right now as the major league system, because this is what's this is the next wave, as Adam mentioned, of Orioles ball players. That this is what you want to see now. So, the Ironbirds are maybe the weakest team out of all four prospect wise, and the Baysox are extremely strong. Delmarva's got a ton of young infielders like Jordan Westberg, Gunnar Henderson. Trying to remember, I think there's another couple guys down there, like Daryl Hernandez is down there, but it's just a talented roster across the minor leagues at all levels. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see guys like Gunnar Henderson kind of take that next step. See what kind of power potential he can tap into. So I'll probably see a few games this summer. Probably catch a couple down in Aberdeen at least.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, it's the Orioles are so accessible. Their minor leagues are so accessible to everyone. So it's always good to see. Trying to make it down to Delmarva at some point. Like I said, that team is so talented. But
yeah,
it's going to be fun. I mean, there's just going to be so many guys moving to. It's going to be, there's probably going to be new guys on each roster every couple weeks. It's going to be fun to watch. Get out, watch the minor league affiliates. This is the next wave of who's coming to Baltimore. So. It's always exciting. And now, Matt, the Orioles, they've taken 5 of their last 7. Transitioning here a little bit because we do have an Orioles game in 7 minutes coming up in Oakland for 4:07 game. So it's coming up. Orioles are 5 for their last 7. They're playing well. They're now 13-14 in sole position. Or I believe they're tied with the Yankees for third place in AL East. It's feeling pretty good right now. The bats are going. The Dark Knight has risen. John Means is still looking like a Cy Young candidate. What have you seen real quick from the Orioles over the last couple weeks?
Just quickly in the last week, I would say the bats are a little bit more consistent from what we have been seeing. It's been a huge boost to get Austin Hayes back in the lineup. He seems to be adding a good amount of power potential in there. DJ Stewart, he had that home run last night and also that really great catch, almost knocked his head off. But it's really good to see. You want them to be competitive, and especially when they're going, because the West Coast trip is kind of always like the dreaded road trip of the year. You don't know how they're going to fare out there if they're like jet lagged. It's always kind of tough. But taking 2 out of 3 for so far and had the chance to sweep today, I've been very impressed, especially with the top half, like you said, of the rotation. Really impressed with those 2 guys.
Yeah, number 3 starter Bruce Zimmerman goes up against Sean Manaea today for the Oakland Athletics. Throwing no-hitter a couple years ago, or was it last? Something pretty recently. So he's a solid pitcher. He's a challenge for the Orioles for sure. But Bruce Zimmerman needs to bounce back. This is a guy who started out pretty well. I kind of look at him as another version of John Means, just not as quite as good. But I'm excited to see what he does tonight. I think he's a solid pitcher. Just, he's got to keep his command. He's got to keep putting balls in the corners, and he's going to have success. He has good stuff. He has decent control. Just got to keep it throughout the game. And he needs to get through the 5th inning like many Orioles starters can't. So I think that's what's important if the Orioles want to sweep tonight. The lineup, again, pretty solid tonight. We're looking at, if I can pull it up real quick here. Matt, if you want to share your screen, pull up that lineup.
Sure. And I was going to say just briefly, too, Bruce Zimmerman's going to have to step up. If Matt Harvey continues to pitch this well, they're probably going to trade Matt Harvey at some point.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're going to need the guy right behind Means to kind of be that stopper. So I'm looking for Bruce Zimmerman to get back.
Yeah, but we haven't mentioned it on this podcast yet, but Zach Lowther came up for the weekend. I believe that was last weekend, had a strikeout in his debut. The Orioles were winning pretty well by the time he came in, so it was only like kind of a cleanup role. Didn't have much to do, but he did get 3 outs pretty easily. Fly ball to the warning track that DJ caught, and then a strikeout to end the game. He looked pretty solid. So he's a guy that you could probably think would be at some point soon in the starting rotation, especially if a guy like Matt Harvey gets traded. Looking at it here, leading off, of course, Cedric Mullins. Batting second is Austin Hayes. Batting third is going to be Trey Mancini, Michael Franco, Pedro Severino, Ryan Mountcastle, Freddie Galvis. He's back from the abductor injury. And then DJ Stewart and Ramon Urias. They will round out the lineup for tonight. Zimmerman pitching to a 5.33 ERA. I think that's a little bit, deceiving. I think he's better than that.
Yeah, I think so too. Obviously, like you said, he's not totally under control in the first couple, in the last couple starts. It is a little bit deceiving. I don't think he's pitching up to his caliber. I expect him, honestly, to finish the season maybe high 4s, but probably around the mid 4s or so.
Yeah, I think that's probably pretty plausible. Guys are going to catch up to you over a full season, especially if he makes 20, 30 starts. People, these are MLB hitters. These are guys that, watch a lot of film. They know exactly how to hit you when they start, sitting on some of your stuff. So he's going to have trouble as he gets going more and more, throughout the season. If he gets to, July and August and his ERA's in the 4s, I think that's a really solid, number. I mean, I think that's excellent for a rookie pitcher. And the league, like I said, is going to catch up to you. So got to keep commanding the ball well. Got to keep working hard for Zimmerman. I think we'll be fine.
Yeah, and I think it's good to see, like I said, just John Mean just continuing to be that dominant guy.
He's unbelievable. This is insane.
Yeah, I saw a stat that said he was the first pitcher in Orioles history his first 6 starts with a 1.7 ERA or less, going back to like Jim Palmer. So, it's just really special what we're seeing in the first month, and hope he keeps it up the rest of the season.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to be a trade candidate too, although I don't want to see him go. They finally got a relatively young ace starter who is a top 5 pitcher in the American League right now. And I just can't fathom that he will be traded, but unfortunately, Mike Elias probably has different plans than me. So we'll see about that. But the Orioles are going to have a lot of guys, especially like a Cedric Mullins too, is another guy you can see on the trade block. Just they're performing so well. I mean, these guys could win, player and pitcher of the month. I don't know if they will, but they might. So it's just there's a lot of talent right now, winning some games for the Orioles. It's good to see them be competitive in almost every game they've played lately.
Yep. Hopefully keeping it up today and continuing that road trip up to Seattle this early next week. So if there's not anything else, Zach, I think we'll wrap the show up. Let people
I got an Orioles game in about 2 minutes. So I think we got this under time constraints. And I really don't have much more. So thanks again to Adam Pohl for coming on the podcast today. Yeah,
I was just going to mention that. Adam Pohl, nicest dude in the world. Definitely would encourage people to get down to some Bowie games if they can this year. Should be an exciting team.
MiLB TV is always a good option if you can. So it does not cost that much. Definitely, get to see Adley Rutschman and stuff. So what's to complain about, really?
grab another jersey of his.
Yeah, exactly. I'm wearing one right now. I can't lie.
So thanks so much for listening, and we will talk to you next week.